Right. Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Generational Wealth Club. Tonight, I've got 4 special guests on, and you guys are going to have an absolute wonderful time in tonight's webinar or Zoom call that we have here live in the group. And I want to introduce you guys to the 4 people on the screen. And what we have, my screen is flashing up and down, sorry. So I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Bill Rowell, the CEO and founder of Swiss Gold Global, our presidential ambassador, Claudia Eifert, and Mr. Ryan Messer, the man behind the new energy business. So I want to hand it over to Mr. Bill Rowell just to introduce himself and give a bit of a background as well.
Hi, Sean. Good afternoon to you and welcome. It's great to be on your call. Thank you for hosting this and inviting myself on, and of course, Ryan and Claudia. It's always great to be here. Generational Wealth, what a purpose-driven name. You know, that's really why we founded Swiss Gold Global, I must say. Sean, it was all about learning about generational wealth. And there's a whole story to how I got engaged in that back in early 2003. But primarily give a bit of a history for the people here for the very first time, and I'll lean into it how Ryan and myself started working with each other, of course, is that I founded a Swiss company in 2008, which we still own and operate, which I still own and operate today, and the whole purpose of creating generational wealth. Primarily, you know, from 1986, I owned my own businesses, hotel operations. I made a lot of cash flow, did very, very well. But it wasn't until I flew into Switzerland and I met a bullion banker who'd been a banker at that time for nearly 20 years. So now he's got probably close to 30 years has been a bullion banker, a good friend of ours, Ryan and Claudia's as well, actually. And he introduced me to the world of gold and silver. And I primarily came to the conclusion after studying this that, you know, our monetary system is designed to transfer wealth away from us. And that's really what hooked me on gold. So Swiss Gold Global was really founded in 2008 to help people, of course, to be able to preserve, to be able to build generational wealth. And the best form of doing that is a hedge against inflation, is precious metals, gold and silver. Has been for thousands of years. But in 2003, I was also introduced to an energy fund back at that particular time. And it was really interesting, and I invested back then, 2004, I invested $1 million of my own money in this fund. But before I actually did that, I flew across with this bullion banker, Philip Judge. I flew across to America, where I met the esteemed Ryan Messer. And that's where we first met. I think it was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, around that particular region. Because primarily it was the natural resource sector, my first time investing in it. And before I put that large sum of money into it, I wanted to make sure that what I was putting my money into was really there. It was tangible, you know. And I learned from the dot-com boom. I invested in many things in the dot-com boom, and came to realize I invested in a lot of things that was just air and hype. And of course, when the market turned, things that had no intrinsic value to it, of course, the share price went to zero. So that was a big lesson from that. So primarily when I went to invest in this energy fund, I mean, the world needs energy. It's a strong trend. The population is going to be growing another 2 billion people over the next 20, 25 years. And it's something that we use every day. So when I was introduced to the energy fund, I think I like my cars, I like my motorbikes in those days. Whenever I go to the Bowser, it's costing me. Yeah. So to be able to position myself on the other side as an investor, me to earner on the wholesale side as well in one sense, to actually receive income from that, it was a no-brainer. So when I went to, of course, America and met with Ryan, first of all, we just connected. He's a young man, dynamic, has his diploma in finance. He's run public companies. He's a director and CEO of his own private energy company, Source Rock, etc. He has a lot of experience, even for a young man. I think today he must have, he'll tell you anyway, nearly 20 years experience in this sector. So we clicked. So he took me around the site. He walked over there, showed me how it all worked. And really, I mean, I fell in love with the MLM concept of residual income, and to walk across these sites, natural gas sites and different things, and natural gas being 60% cleaner than fossil fuels, but to see these pumps just ticking 24/7, and I was asleep in another part of the world, realizing that I'm generating income here and I'm asleep in another part of the world, it was a no-brainer for me. I thought, I want to position myself in that. So that's what triggered me to invest that large amount of sum into that particular fund. And we've been associated ever since. But we're reconnected. I mean, we've always been connected, but we really connected on this vision, because Ryan was also involved in crypto. He loves crypto and he believes in the blockchain technology. And the experience of the mining contracts and things, and the mining environment has changed. But I've always been a believer that generational wealth, you need to have assets of intrinsic value. You need to have something that has real solid value. And of course, the technologies today in the blockchain development, to be able to give people a stake in ownership in real assets, it's a bit of a no-brainer. So that is how we came together, and that is what we're doing. And that's the trend. That is the direction. This is what we are doing right now. And Ryan is our expert in this particular field. And it's just wonderful that we've had such a long relationship with him. Now, if I'm correct, Claudia can touch on it when she comes on. I think Claudia also invested in that energy fund 10 years ago as well, but she'll tell you that story also. So back over to you, Sean.
Thank you, Bill. Ryan, so you, the man who hits the energy side and the energy business, and a couple of weeks ago we had you on here as well. It was a great honor to have you on as well. And to meet you for the first time, as I've met Bill and Claudia over the corporate Zoom calls and so on, but it's the first time I met you. Now, last time we spoke a bit about oil and the gas as well, and you mentioned something about the water, and I can't remember the word again. Can you elaborate a bit around that, just to explain to people how all the stuff works around?
Yeah, sure. So again, thanks for having me on. For those of you who didn't get a chance to join the last call, my name is Ryan Messer. As Bill pointed out, we have a long-standing relationship. I guess probably going on 13, 14 years, maybe 15 years. I've been in the energy space for about 18 years. Before that, in the tech space, been following tech for a long time. Of course, it's sort of also a passion of mine, which is why I've followed really closely what's been going on in the blockchain space, cryptocurrency mining space, and participated with Genesis and the like, and developed my own mine here locally as well. But so thanks for all that. So a little bit of background. The fundamental behind our vision for this STO, or asset-backed ICO, if you will, is around sustainable technology and resource holdings. Okay, that's why the name of this STO is going to be STORH, S-T-O-R-H, because we'll be storing wealth, storing resources within this vehicle. Now, phase one is going to be energy resources. Phase two will be on the mineral side. But let's talk about the energy space. A lot of these things do cross over, okay? So when we talk about energy, we talk about natural resources that support the energy sector. Most of my career has been spent on the liquid side. So that's crude oil, that's exploiting minerals, shooting 3D seismic. What I've been doing over the last 2 years, I've got a company and a partner and a company called BlackRock Midstream. And so we buy crude, we blend it. We're essentially a service provider to the crude oil business. And so essentially taking advantage of this tremendous boom that's going on in that space. If you guys follow the resource space in the US, is just over the last 4 or 5 years, we've gone through an entire renaissance. This is sort of resource play 3.0. And so the trend that we're seeing now is that people are so much more responsive and acute to what's going on in the environment and how this is all impacting our environment. I don't know if you've listened to the news, but heard of the earthquakes that are going on in the central United States. What's happened with the resource play and technology, right? As the price of oil goes up, and technology gets better and better, we continually find new results, which is why we disproved the whole peak oil theory, right? Because now we produce more oil than we have in a long time, and we import a lot less than we've ever imported. But as a result of that, it takes a tremendous amount of water to frack these wells that are being drilled. And we're talking about horizontal laterals going down miles and out miles. And not only are they going out miles, they're being stacked on top of each other. So out of one vertical well, you may have 3 or 4 horizontal legs. And so in each one of those legs, you may have 100+ stages of fracks, which all take fluid to move the proppants, which is sand or some other type of proppant, to keep the formation open. So what has that done? That's put a tremendous amount of pressure on our freshwater systems. And not only that, we have to inject because there hasn't been an alternative, or there hasn't been enough regulation and consciousness around what that's doing to our water supply. And so there's a big business being created. It's a very niche play, but we see this as sort of the model for what's going to happen in the United States and other countries as well, as they begin to sort of pick up on, you know, these sort of fracking technologies. And that is taking the water that has been put downhole to frack the wells, because it has to be produced back, reclaim that water in lieu of injecting it back into the formation, and of course providing chemicals, providing other services. So you can wrap about 4 or 5 different income streams around that one business model around water reclamation in one part of the United States. So replicate that around other states, and you've got a business that's worth, you know, a tremendous amount of money long term. And not only that, we're providing a great service to our environment and the people of our country. So.
And tell me, the ICO, that's not very far away of going into like a pre-launch stage where people get a white paper. So that's literally about 2-3 weeks away, 4 weeks away. What is the sort of time frame we're looking at roughly?
I think we are probably about 3 to 4 weeks away from having a white paper release, landing page, and be able to sort of announce something in terms of how you're going to be able to get involved. And I'll let Bill and Claudia touch on that really, because they're going to have the exclusive right over this particular STO in the initial phases. And there'll be obviously perks, you know, ongoing to have them be our exclusive marketing vehicle for this STO, this asset-backed company. So maybe I'll sort of pass it to Claudia or Bill to talk about the launch and relaunch of Swiss Gold Global.
Yeah. One more question I wanted to ask is it slipped my mind now because I was thinking of 2 different things here. I'll get back to that question in a minute. Claudia, if you go on explaining that, I'll get back to the question I wanted to ask as well.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, well, sorry, let's come back. What I wanted to say is, what people also don't realize is that I've seen a lot of ICOs out there, and I've seen stuff with asset-backed tokens, other companies trying to do gold and stuff, but it's nothing, they don't get to that. But this is the first time I've seen a proper energy business with oil and gas. How complicated was it to come up with this concept and put it in place? This is like groundbreaking. This is like brand new.
Well, I think we are pioneers in this space, right? I mean, obviously there's not in terms of the sector, but in terms of our go-to-market strategy and our business plan is very niche oriented. We're not going out there and making blank investments into the resource plays, because the likes of Pioneer, Continental, ConocoPhillips, all these guys are deploying tens of billions of dollars out in the Permian Basin and are probably going to get no more than 1.5 to 2 times their money. That's not the place that we're playing. We're taking advantage of the market from a liquids perspective and service and supply and midstream, right? And then in terms of natural gas, the play for us is to get in early, because there's a massive international arbitrage going on with the liquefaction. I mean, sort of bridging the price gap between the United States and the abundance of supply that we have here and the consumption around the world. As Bill mentioned, the growth in energy demand over the years. So what's going to bridge that? What's going to supply? What's going to be the source of fuel that is going to underpin that energy demand? And predominantly, it's going to be natural gas. I think nuclear lost that battle, and especially as oil prices go up, alternative fuels are look more and more attractive. That's why you see that's why you see some sustainable technologies now actually making economic sense, and you see a rebirth in, you know, renewables and sustainable, because it has to compete, right, on an international level. And so we're going to be niche players in that market as well. So no, the barrier to entry is really high. I mean, you look at the asset-backed ICOs that are out there, you can't even see who the board of directors are. So we're fully transparent, and when you see our tokenomics, you're going to realize how absolutely tight our tokenomics are. I mean, we're not issuing 20% to the founders here. We're going to run this extremely tight, because we want to I want to back it with as much of the capital as possible. So it's going to be over 90, probably 94, 95% backed. And the rest of that will be, between bounties and expenses and legal and founders. So it'll be very, very tight.
I'm super excited about it because it's such a new ICO, and the concept behind it is literally just that I haven't seen it before. It's just it's absolutely amazing. I'm looking forward to see the white paper. Claudia, would you like to tell us a bit more about the new launch and the marketing side of the things and what we can sort of expect?
Sure, Sean, I can. Well, the most thing in our business, of course, you and my business, not necessarily Ryan's or Bill's business, because they're on the management side. In our business is, of course, to have it. And I hear an echo. Somebody can mute himself? I don't know. Who is that? All right, it's better now. So, that it has to be really simple. So not everybody understands about energy and assets and investing and all this. So we have to make it very simple for people. So that people just basically literally know how to make somebody curious. And then when they made somebody curious, what to do next. And the next, it has to be, of course, a tool. And see, the most thing in network marketing, in online marketing, social marketing, I always have learned, when your mouth is actually moving, then that means to just pointing to a tool which can be used, because you, the person, you'll never be duplicatable, but a system is duplicatable. And so what we were developing is a system which is duplicatable, which is easy to do, because when we talk, especially on what we're bringing out now, people make God knows what kind of claims. And we certainly want to avoid one thing, and that is that people make those crazy claims. How can you avoid that? Well, you can avoid that by having a really great system, a simple system where every question basically is in one form or another on a tool which what we need to learn is about, well, where do we find that tool, how to point to that tool, okay? So that's why I say when your mouth is moving, then it's just to point to a tool. A tool could also be a call such as ours we have now, where Ryan goes a little bit more in the nitty-gritty details. That could also be a tool. So we developing that system where basically people will be able to know what they say in their first sort of invite, in their elevator's pitch, as to say, they have their 30 seconds pitch. From that, make people curious enough that they want to listen to more, and then we point them to a 5-minute overview that is being recorded, or it could be on a video. From there, we then, if they of course then interested, and yes, they want to certainly get involved, get into it, then they can listen to another 10 or 15 minutes overview. And from there, if they really want to get the ins and outs and details and whatnot, and they can listen to a 45 minutes recording or presentation. So this should be the process. They come to a landing page, to a squeeze page, or you learn the elevator pitch, or the elevator pitch is on the squeeze page, or you learn the elevator pitch if you do offline marketing like I do as well. So that is basically the system which we working on to get it together, which of course eventually, not in the beginning, but of course eventually also has to be translated in different languages. That's my aim, definitely, at least to have it really in Spanish, in French, and so in the main used languages, and then later on go into more languages. And yeah, this is exciting. And then of course we know the African market. The African market is always problematic in videos, because they never have the broadband, it never works. And so we're developing also some infographics for them, so to have the presentation in the go. And also, of course, the marketing plan, how they can earn, because people really need to get it in the first few seconds what they can make, because there's only 3 things people want to know, of course. And this is, okay, so what do I do? right? What do I do? What do I have to do? And how much money can I make, and how quick can I make that money? That's just the three things which people have interest for in our business. And we need to get this across like ASAP. And that is what we're working on. And so, yes, we're working as fast as possible, but of course, it's going to be a video be shot in the first week of November. So then to develop that video, it will take I guess, I don't know, another 1 or 2 weeks. So by mid of November, end of November, we hope that we get these tools ready for the people.
Good stuff. Now, next week, I believe you guys are all going to be, I believe Bill and Claudia is going to fly out to Houston. Or be in the States for all the new stuff. So the new website, there's one apparently coming out. Is that going to be like in next week? Is it something that people can sign up before the time, or do they have to wait for the specific date to get involved? How can we get people to understand when the new date or the new site is going to be more helpful and functional for them?
Well, we're getting close to it, Sean. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to do. We're transitioning. You know, we have the Swisscom Global site now is going to transition to the new name, and we believe that'll be the first. We'd say in the first week of November. Now, before then, of course, we're going to email out lots of instructions and different things. But people now, I mean, because it's a transition from the Swisscom Global site to the new actual branding name, people can get engaged now. I mean, they could join up now under Swisscom Global. They've got many options there, and they can just transition over. It'll automatically transition over to the new system, and they'll be able to get all the benefits. And of course, the information will be much more. The information what Ryan's spoken about and what Claudia's speaking about will be available then when that goes live. But we've got compliance issues we've got to deal with, and of course, there's a lot the engineers have to do to transition. I mean, primarily Swisscom Global is a bank, in one sense, if I can say that, outside the legal sort of things, but because we're holding people's gold and silver, so security is very, very high. And the same when it comes to people's, even though we don't store cryptocurrencies on people's wallets, we report what they have there. And now, of course, with the new product coming out, that security in the modules there must be very, 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 very tight too. So we don't want to rush it. So we're getting close to that, but we'll keep people on these calls that we're doing. And I'm sure we're going to do a lot more of these calls moving forward, Sean, working with you, which we really appreciate it. We'll be able to give people more information, and certainly Claudia and some of the other team members as well.
And another thing as well, the ICOs, that's completely separate to Swisscom Global, and the new brand is a separate company on its own. It's not linked to each other. Just to clarify that for the people as well.
Yeah, correct. As Ryan said, this is important also for regulatory sides, but also for, you know, we have under agreement with the company, which is headed by Ryan. Sorry, which is headed by Ryan. You know, we have the sole rights to be able to sell and distribute this particular asset security token in one sense, and primarily that's built on trust and relationship over a very long time now, of course. So that's what we'll be doing, but much more that'll come out as we get closer. I know you want to know a lot more right now, but we're not quite in the position to actually do that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. There's so many questions coming up and people asking and sending me messages, and I'm trying to pull out what I can or what I'm allowed to, basically. It's all the can't give all the secrets away in one go. I want to say thank you so much for you guys for joining, and I know you guys put a lot of effort, a lot of work into it. I'm looking forward to see Ryan on the next call as well, so get a bit more update and understanding for people. I don't want to give too much information in one go, and otherwise people forget some of the information we give to them. Claudia, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bill, for coming in, and thank you everyone for watching us on Generational Wealth Club. And we'll speak to you all guys all later again. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.